Hey there, my name's Danny Leibrandt, and you are listening to The Local Marketeer, where we have local marketing experts every week. Today, I'm with Josh Nelson. Josh is the founder of Seven Figure Agency and Plumbing and HVAC SEO. Josh has been running Plumber and HVAC SEO for 15 years, which is a digital marketing agency helping plumbers and HVAC companies with digital marketing. He's also been running Seven Figure Agency for 11 years, which is just insane. He's been in the industry for a while, and Seven Figure Agency helps agencies grow and scale. And kind of fun fact there, I actually got my agency model, Pest Control SEO, from Josh. So it's so cool to finally have him on the podcast, to learn from the origin himself. You know, he created this model, and going off of that, he has 137 people in Seven Figure Agency doing $1 million or more a year, which is just, it's so mind blowing. I really haven't seen this in any other kind of mastermind or coaching program, anything like that. It's really, it's insane what you've done, Josh. It's awesome. And then 23 people at multiple seven figures, which, you know, it's insane. And a combined revenue of $250 million a year with all those agencies combined. And he also has the #1 best-selling book in how to grow and scale a digital marketing agency, which is Seven Figure Agency Roadmap. So Josh is one of the veterans in the space. He knows how to grow and scale an agency, and he also knows how to grow and scale a home service local business, or really any kind of local business. So excited to have you on the podcast, Josh. You know, this has been a long time coming. So glad to have you on.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. And you're doing such a great job with the format of this podcast. So kudos to you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. So let's jump into your journey. So you started Plumbing and HVAC SEO about 15 years ago. What were you doing before then, and what kind of led up to that?
Yeah, so kind of like my journey in getting into the agency space started right out of high school. I started a web design and hosting company called Developcom, which was building websites, hosting websites. I was with the wrong business model, selling to the wrong people. Did not work out. Long story short, I had to shut that down and go get a real job. I worked in B2B sales for several years. I worked at ADP, the big payroll management company. I worked at Data Impact, which is like a document imaging company. And all the while when I was working in corporate America, I was a student of the game. Like, I knew I wanted to be wealthy. I knew I wanted to create success. And so I don't know about you, but I'm a big audio listener. So I was listening to all of the audio books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, E-Myth Revisited, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And all those books pointed back to, look, if you want to be successful, you've got to create a business, right? And you've also got to invest your money and create passive income. Like, those were the two things that pretty much all of these books point to. So in trying to figure out how to restart a business, knowing that I had failed the first time, one book really stuck out to me, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. He talks about entering the corridor. And sometimes the best way to start is to go get a job in the industry that you want to start your business in and learn the industry better, see if there's an opportunity, see if you can do it better. And so I wound up landing a job with Reach Local, the big pay-per-click management company, at the time doing over $250 million in revenue. And I was like, okay, well, obviously they're doing something right. I'm going to go see if I can get a job there. And I got into sales at Reach Local. I spent about a year there and learned a lot. Like, just totally changed my thought process on how to charge, the value proposition, my beliefs in what digital marketing agency services were worth, and learned a lot there. Had a lot of great experiences, good and bad, right? And if you've ever worked with Reach Local and maybe had a negative experience, being the salesperson on the other side of that, it was fun to learn how to sell it. It was fun to see that, companies really needed these services. They craved these services, but it was also distressing to like sit down with that local dentist or that local roofing company and going through the reports and seeing there was phone calls, but there weren't actual revenues that generated, in excess of the spend. And so I took what I learned there and I said, okay, now I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to do it different. I'm going to do it better. I'm going to make sure my clients get oversized results. And that's when we started Plumbing and HVAC SEO back in like 2010, 2011. And it kind of grew to seven figures in the first 2 years and has continued to grow since.
That's insane. 7 figures in the first 2 years. Can you walk me through that? Like, what exactly was going on in those first 2 years?
Yeah. So initially we were going to be a generalist agency. So we were selling, just like at Reach Local, anybody that had a business. So we were selling roofers and dentists and chiropractors and eye doctors. Within the first probably month and a half or 2 months, we realized trying to be a generalist serving everybody wasn't going to work, because the dentist that we met with wanted to see other dental clients we'd worked with. and every new client you get in a different industry was a whole new ball of wax, right? You got to figure out what their keywords are. You got to figure out what their value proposition is. And it's different. You're reinventing the wheel for every client. And so we decided, look, we've got this one plumbing client. We've gotten great results. Let's double down on that. Let's polish our program. Let's position ourselves as the experts. Let's document what we did for that client. And, one client turned into two clients, turned into dozens of clients. It was probably $500,000 in revenue, a little less than that in the first year. And the second year was really where we saw, explosive growth. If you look at the numbers, though, if you're like, well, like 7 figures in 2 years, how many clients were they landing? How did they pull that off? We literally were on a run rate of an average of 5 clients per month, like new clients that we onboarded at an average of like $1,500 per month. And so if you kind of account for how many we landed versus how much we churned, it wasn't crazy numbers to bring on 5 clients per month on average and grow to 7 figures.
Interesting. And I'm personally curious, why did you choose plumbing and HVAC, or was it just one of those to start?
Yeah, so I hand selected like 5 potential verticals, right? Because at Reach Local, I saw the industries that worked and performed really well. And I thought maybe it was going to be restaurants or eye doctors or roofing companies. But we had a former plumbing client that we'd worked with, got an opportunity, had a great conversation, had a need. Like I said, hey, here's what we can do. He said yes. Got him an amazing result. And, we weren't necessarily sold on plumbing at that moment, but after we saw what we did for him and the results, he referred us to somebody else. And then we were able to then say, hey, look at the results we got for this particular plumber. Like, look at where he's ranking. Look at how many leads he's getting. Look at how he's added trucks. And it just spiraled from there. And as we got deeper into the trades, we realized, man, what an amazing industry, right? Like, what a problem that they solve. And the fact there's so much demand, and it's it's not going to, in an economic crisis, go away. Like, it's just such a needed service. And the other thing that's interesting in home services, specifically plumbing and HVAC, is there's a lack of tradespeople willing to do that kind of work. And so the supply is outpaced by the demand. And so it's like, this industry is only going to grow. The demands for it are only going to grow as the U.S. economy continues to expand. But anyways, long story short, we fell in love with the industry. We got great results for it, and just doubled down in that space.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm a big believer in the home services industry as well. My dad has a flooring company. My 2 best friends are in HVAC. I'm very familiar. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And what is so great about it is that it's completely needed. So whatever's going on with AI and marketing and all this stuff in the next few years, people are always still going to need pest control. They're always going to need an HVAC guy. They're always going to need a plumber, especially because, like you were saying, fewer and fewer people are doing it. So I really believe in the home services industry as a whole, and I'm super bullish on it. And just to be clear, is that like mostly what, like the kinds of agencies that you coach at 7-figure agency seminar or 7-figure agency, or is it a wide range? Like, is it other industries as well?
It's local businesses for the most part. So it's not just home services. Like, when you think about the local business market, there's auto, which is auto repair, auto body, auto detailing. Then there's medical. You've got med spas and all of the sub markets within medical, with like dentistry and med spas, and so legal and all of them, sub niches within legal. But I would say, if you look at it, it's probably like 60% home services, and the remainder would be those others. And there's a small pocket of agencies that do, more B2B centric services, like document imaging or sign companies and things like that.
Okay, awesome. And then when did you extend out to HVAC? When did that happen?
Yeah, so I would say probably a year in, because we branded as plumberseo.net. Like, it was just plumbing companies. We got involved in the industry trade organizations. So, and it's just something I recommend all agencies do: get into the trade organization, add value, show up at their live events. We found that plumbing really wasn't a standalone trade. Like, the plumbing and HVAC companies all come together under PHCC, Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association. And we found when we got a plumbing company, most of the strategic home service companies in plumbing, HVAC, and electrical recognize that it costs as much to get a one-time customer as it does to sell to the existing customer again and again. And so they wind up saying, well, if I'm already in the home and I've already got this relationship with the homeowner, why couldn't I add HVAC? Why couldn't I add electrical services. And so we
Mm.
realized most of our clients either were doing both or going to be doing both, in the years ahead.
Okay, cool. And I really want to dive into these first 2 years because I think that's certainly not something to knock that in 2 years you scaled to 7 figures. Like, I think that's a big deal. I think most people don't understand how crazy that is. So can you kind of walk me through that? Like, was it kind of smooth sailing now that you went to the agency and you kind of learned everything, or like, how did it happen?
I don't think it's ever smooth sailing. It wasn't
Yeah.
hectic. Like if I compare my first agency, which was a nightmare, like I was literally cold calling every day, going to BNI meetings, chasing my tail because I had the wrong
Mm-hmm.
model, and just the economics were never going to work out, regardless of how hard I worked. But it definitely wasn't smooth sailing, right? We were trying to figure out, like, what does the deliverable look like? How do we make sure we generate? The last thing I wanted to ever do was repeat what I had experienced at the previous company, where it was like I felt like I was just selling a dream and then not really getting the outcomes. I wanted to make sure every client I got, we knocked it out of the park for, and we did such a good job that they were like, "Man, you changed my life. I'm happy to say how great you are. I'm happy to refer you to others." And so we spent a lot of time just making sure that we over delivered on the SEO, on the rankings, on the tracking. I think one of the smart things we did early was putting out a direct outreach strategy. So we decided we're going to go after plumbers, right? We joined the National Plumbing Association. We did decide initially to go area exclusive. And so, like, once we got that guy in Fort Lauderdale, we're like, well, let's hit all of the companies in the Florida market that wouldn't overlap. And so we're like, okay, let's one in Miami, one in Fort Lauderdale, one in West Palm Beach, one in Tampa. And we hand selected those markets and we grabbed all the top companies in those areas and we reached out to them one-to-one. Look, we're looking to work with just one company in Orlando. Here's what we did for the guy in Fort Lauderdale. If you'd like us to do the same for you, you need to act quick, but we're going to hit the ground running and we're going to knock it out of the park for you. That strategy, at least at that time, was compelling. It created urgency, and it really filled our pipeline with new plumbing and HVAC clients, in that first 2 years.
Interesting. Okay, so you're doing a lot of outreach then. How has that progressed over the years in terms of lead generation? Like, it seems like a lot of outbound back then. Have you switched it now? Is it kind of all forms of lead generation? Can you explain how that's changed?
Yeah, so we've really switched gears from outbound, which is chasing prospects down, right? They may or may not have a need at that moment, but you've shown up and you're trying to convince them to give you an opportunity today. And I would say probably, into the second year in the business, we decided let's position ourselves as the experts. Let's show proven results and let's get clients to come to us pre-positioned to buy. And so that was publishing our book, How to Triple Your Sales by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right for Plumbing Contractors. And then it was putting out webinars every single month, but not sales webinars, just literally, here's how to do it. Here's how to set up your website. Here's how to make sure it's getting ranked. Here's how to get ranked on the Google map. Here's how to drive Google reviews, right? Actually creating that content and sending it out to those prospects that were on our database over the years. And then, finding opportunities to be at the industry events, at the industry conferences where we could plug in, where we could add value, potentially where we could speak and do continuing education. And then doing a podcast like this specific to the industry. Just like you're doing here, right? Bring on successful plumbing companies, ask them to tell us their stories, ask them about what they're doing to market themselves, ask them what's changed over the last couple of years. And I think that combination of consistent value-added content, really changed the game. Because when you have clients coming to you, there's not a hard sell. Like they're meeting with you and they're like, hey, show me what you can do. And it's completely different dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. Inbound leads are 100% the best. And that's really what I'm trying to do as well. Just become the number one authority in a particular niche. So absolutely love that. And then another kind of aspect of that, which is a follow-up question, how have your services evolved? Because I know the domain is plumberseo.net. Were you guys just doing SEO?
Yeah, so we started out just as an SEO company, right? So we would build the website and we'd do it on their domain and we would do all the content, all the on-page optimization, citation development, everything to do with like getting ranked organically into the maps. And we did good work, obviously, and we got clients ranked. But what we found was, like anybody in this industry knows, it doesn't happen like that, right? Once you start to create that content, you start to build that authority. In some cases, a couple tweaks, bam, they shoot right up to the top for important keywords and the phone starts to ring. But in some cases, that could be 3 months, could be 6 months. And what we know is our clients expect consistent, measurable results, right? And we expect that from ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be able to deliver quick wins for our clients. Like if they're going to sign up for our program, let's say it's $3,000 to $5,000 per month, they're not going to pay that for 6 months and just be like, okay, let's hope that these guys can actually deliver on this over the long term. And so we recognized we had to have a more healthy mix. And so we went full service digital marketing. So today, yes, SEO is still very big in what we do. But we're also running paid advertising, which is, let's make sure we're coming up on local service ads. Let's make sure we're showing up for paid ads. Let's make sure we're doing retargeting when somebody gets to our site so that they see us again, right? And that's the lead gen side. We also recognized that just generating leads in this market isn't the answer, right? Because if they get leads that don't convert into book jobs, that don't convert into revenue, you could blame the client, but they're still going to look at you and say, hey, I hired you to get me a result. Right. And so we decided we got to put some marketing automation in place. We got to help them figure out how they can convert those leads into sales. And then more importantly, help them think about how do we turn the one-time customer into a repeat customer that uses us again and again. And so our program today really it's a full, let's drive leads, let's convert the leads, and let's track the results, right? Let's make sure we know down to the dollar how much you spent, how many leads you generated, and what the return on investment is. I think any agency in today's market should be thinking, how do we bring those three things to the market? Because if you can get them ranked and then you can help them convert the leads and then you can show them here's how many leads you got and here's the return on investment, they're very confident in that and they're willing to continue to stick around long term.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So it seems like you completely dialed the agency in the first years. It came pretty quick, at least, not with the first agency, but then you worked at another agency. You kind of figured out the strategy, scaled to 7 figures in 2 years. And now tell me about starting 7-figure agency. What was that?
Yeah. So I love education. Like I just love being at events. I love being at conferences. I love learning. And so I was at all of the local SEO, local meetup groups. And as when they're talking to people and they're kind of seeing my journey and seeing the company grow, and a lot of them still at their first client or their first $10,000, and they're kind of bumping up and down. A lot of people started asking, like, Josh, what did you do different? How can I replicate your success? And at that point, I decided, hey, look, I've got a 7-figure agency. Why don't I call this thing 7-figure agency and show you exactly how we built our agency to 7 figures? And it started out as a course. It was literally just, here's how we, set up the business model. Here's how we land clients. Here's what we actually do from a deliverable perspective. Here's how we operationalize the deliverables. And that sold pretty well, the course itself. But I found that there were some people that took the course and rocket shipped, and then other people did, they just didn't. And what I realized is a course in a vacuum only does so much, right? It's just information. Really what most people need is they need the course, and then they need, ongoing training, ongoing support, ongoing hey, let's keep you plugged in. Let's keep you energized. Let's keep you taking action. And so it transitioned from a course to, a full mentorship program, which it is today, where we've got sessions happening every week and we get together live and in person 3 times per year.
Awesome. And can you talk to me a little bit more about it? Like when someone joins 7-figure agency, what is it like? What do they get? What can they expect?
Yeah. So when somebody joins, they're going to get, our entire suite of services. Like they're going to get all of our training on how we land clients, how we deliver results, how we retain the clients, how we scale. They're going to get a 90-day game plan on their situation, which is, here's where you are today. Like there's a million things you could do, but what are the 3 things that are going to move you forward over the next 90 days? And then they've got coaching sessions that happen Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They get a dedicated 7-figure coach that's grown to 7 figures that's helping them along. And then we get together in Miami for what we call intensives 3 times per year. And that's where we're just going deep on building the plan, keeping ourselves energized, seeing the other successful agencies, masterminding, and remaining on the cutting edge of what's actually working in today's market to drive results for the clients, right? Because it's not just about revenue. It's about, let's grow the agency, let's grow our team, let's create freedom, but also let's make sure we're delivering the best results we possibly can for the clients we serve in our niche.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And how did growing 7-figure agency compare to growing plumbing and HVAC
SEO.
Yeah. How did growing the two compare?
It was, I think the coaching was a little bit slower just because, I was my main focus was the agency and making sure we're serving our clients and we're growing that. And it was just kind of a side thing. Hey, it's a little side hustle. Let me help some agencies along the way. Over the years, I have been able to put an amazing leadership team in place at Plumbing and HVAC SEO and shift more of my focus onto seven-figure agency. It's interesting though, a lot of the same marketing strategies and the same, techniques apply, right? I mean, I put out content on a consistent basis. I run a podcast. I plug into the industry events and conferences. I tend to focus on let's give value and let the right people come to us when the time is right.
Yeah. Awesome. And in terms of okay. I forgot what I wanted to ask. It was the leadership teams. You mentioned you have a great leadership team in place. Can you talk about what that looks like, how you found that people, what are they doing on a regular basis?
Absolutely. So when you think about your agency and kind of the evolution of an agency as you grow and scale, right? The first thing you usually need to help remove yourself from is the operations, right? When we're doing website SEO, pay-per-click, social, whatever the mix of services is, you need to be plugged into the the innovation on what the deliverable looks like. But if you're physically, clicking the buttons and doing the work, that's going to prevent you from innovating in the organization and creating the kind of freedom that you want. So, first thing is to build that operational capacity within the company. The second position typically is account management, right? Because as you get to 15 or 20 clients, those clients need to be checked in every month. They need to be shown what's going on and seeded the vision for where things are headed next. And as the owner, usually you're still meeting with the clients until you get to that place. And then you're bottlenecked. So it's I can't do anything else. And so the second position is account management. And then usually his third is administrative support, HR, hiring, firing, paying the bills. And you usually need an assistant, ideally a marketing / administrative assistant at that point. And so that gives you kind of the basic framework to get stuff done. But as you grow to seven figures and then multiple seven figures, just having a team of people that are doing work doesn't free you up. And it really isn't going to give you the ability to continue to grow the company while delivering oversized results. What you need is leaders, right? And so I'm a big fan of EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. And we invested in an EOS implementer, probably at about that $3 million mark in the business. And what that forces you to do is create an accountability chart and then create a leadership team. And now we've got a leader in operations, right? Which oversees a leader in website development, content, a separate leader in SEO, a separate leader in paid search, a separate leader in account management. And each one of those leaders understand their responsibility is to hold the rest of the team accountable, but also to innovate in that area of the business. What's the latest changes? How do we make sure we're on the top of it? How do we make sure we're moving things forward? And so it also forces you to create a meeting rhythm. And so I personally I meet every Wednesday with that leadership team and my business partner, Dean, and we follow the EOS level 10 meeting process. That keeps me, engaged with what's happening, lets me help to make decisions. But those leaders then meet with their teams every single week and run that same process with that team. And so what having that leadership team in place has created the ability for the continued innovation within the organization without me having to be on all those meetings, without me having to make all those decisions, which has been a game changer, right? Because I think most of us, when we create the agency, it's so we can make more money, right? We want to be able to, pay our bills and live a great life, to create freedom, right? To do what we want to do, to take the travels. And that's one of the points of running a business and being an entrepreneur is not to have a job, but to have a true business that can run with or without you. And then number three is impact, right? We want to know that we're having an impact on the clients we serve and they're growing because our services. We're having an impact on that team that we hire because they're able to, pay their bills and take care of their families. And I think that's what building a leadership team at seven figures, multiple seven figures enables you to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Like I said, I learned the model from you. And when I was at the 7-figure agency seminar, you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys passed out the book Traction for free. And because you were giving it to everyone, I was like, okay, there has to be some kind of significance to this. So I read it and I was like, wow. Okay. And it felt like it was tailored to agencies, but I guess it really can be applied to any business.
Yeah.
So yeah, really like the EOS system. I think anyone should read the book Traction. And going off of that, are there any other books that you'd say are like a must read for an agency owner or business owner in general?
And there's so many good books. I think one of the foundational books is the E-Myth Revisited, which is just, it helps you understand that your business isn't the job, right? As a digital marketing agency owner or as a local business owner, right? Whether you're a pest control company, yes, you probably understand how to kill the pests, right? You understand how to do that work, but you have to understand that's a function, that's a job in the business. A true entrepreneur, the business owner, doesn't do the work. They lead the team that does the work, and they create the infrastructure to provide that service to the marketplace. And so the E-Myth Revisited just helps to make sure you're thinking as a CEO and not as a technician. And then another great book is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, which it kind of dovetails nicely with EOS, but it really helps you recognize that it's not just about creating more capacity to do work within the business. It's, if you really want to have freedom, you're going to have to look at your calendar on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, and figure out where your time's going that isn't in your genius zone, that isn't at a dollar level that's matched with what your value to the company is, and buying back your time. Whether that's getting a personal chef at the house or getting someone to take care of the lawn, or whether that's hiring a CEO. Like, it helps you think through that process and create the structure so that you can create that time freedom to innovate and to be in your genius.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. That book's been on my list, but I'm glad you mentioned it because now I'll definitely read it. Now, for people that are watching the podcast, they can see 3 boards in the back behind you. Can you explain what those are and why they're so important?
Yeah. So this is actually the 7-figure agency model. You've got land clients, right? And if you're going to grow an agency, you got to have a process to land clients on a consistent basis. Then you got to deliver results, right? Which is, you have to knock it out of the park for your clients, but you also have to deliver results in a scalable way, right? You can't just, do it yourself, right? We got to systematize, we got to put the procedures in place. Then we've got to retain long-term. And this is one of the struggles in the agency model. Like, if you're just landing clients and then losing clients, you're on this hamster wheel of gaining and landing. I think a lot of agencies think it's just as simple. If I deliver results, I won't ever lose clients. But you can't just deliver results. You also have to create a great experience. You have to engage your clients. You have to partner with them in a way where they see the value that you bring to the table. So you got to be strategic with that. And then ultimately, you can't see this whole board, but it's scale up, right? We got to put the systems, the procedure, the team, the operational infrastructure in place so we don't have to do it all ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I remember specifically at the seminar and some of the podcasts I've watched from you that you guys had some really interesting and really good strategies on reducing churn. Could you talk about that, of how to reduce churn?
Yeah. So number one, when it comes to reducing churn, results trumps all, right? So you have to deliver results. If you, as an agency owner, you're not like losing sleep over the client that's not getting an amazing return on investment, that's not happy with your service, that's spot number one. But I think there's 3 things that really will drive retention. Number 1 is your onboarding. Number 2 is your communication rhythm. And then number 3 is your account management process and procedures. So the way you come out of the gates onboarding a client will make or break the relationship, right? They're going to sign up for whatever the monthly fee is, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 or more per month. And they're placing their trust in you. And they're hoping, because they hired someone else in the past and it didn't work out, or they don't have the money, but they're making a big investment. And so being sure that you're diligent on that initial conversation, gathering the usernames, passwords, all of that stuff, and then doing the little unexpected things. I like this to drop a gift basket in the mail. Most agencies don't do it. And so when you sign up and the next day you receive a basket of goodies saying, hey, we're excited about working with you, that creates a good expectation. It creates a good experience. And so there's lots of things you can do on the onboarding to make sure it comes out clean, to make sure that it's impressive. I think the most important aspect, though, of onboarding outside of that stuff is engineering the quick wins, right? They need to not just see the activity, but they need to actually get a lead or get an opportunity or get a sale as quickly as possible. And so whether that's doing a database reactivation to their existing customer base, or whether that's turning on a paid search campaign for certain keywords right away, the quicker you can get some wins for the client in that first week, in that first month, the better you're going to be long term. Reporting wise, I think simplifying reporting and not burying the client. In the past, I think the agency world got comfortable with, we'll do like these automatic reports where they can see 1,000 keywords and they can see their analytics data and they look at it and they're like, what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
Simplifying it. So it's like, here's how much you spent. Here's how many leads you generated. Here's what your return on investment is. And obviously you've got to combine that with, and here's why, and here's what we're doing in order to make sure that number continues to trend in the right direction and get them involved in the process. And then on the account management ongoing process, recognizing you need to meet with the client every single month, right? And you probably need to put a team in place that can handle that relationship, that can be on call and take those after hours conversations. I find that when you do that, you can usually get your churn down to less than 3% on a monthly average.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, can you talk to me a little bit more about client communication? Like, should you be communicating every week, every month? Should it be whatever the client wants, or do you guys have one specific system that you stick to?
I think, it's going to depend on a client by client basis, and it's going to depend on the personality type of the client you're working with. There's type A business owners, and there's more like, high information fact find, marketing directors, which are going to be two different situations. But I do think, in the first month, you want to be over communicating, right? Because that's where you got to show the value. You haven't generated results yet. So you got to be, here's what we're working on. Here's what we need from you. Here's what's coming next. That's probably at least a weekly recap and maybe like daily touches. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we're working on in the first month. After that, I think it typically goes to a monthly rhythm. Hey, here's what we're working on. Here's where we're headed next. Here's what the reporting is telling us. In the perfect world, that's how we've structured in our agency. Account manager meets with a client every single month. But we have found there's clients that they're too busy. They don't want to meet. They're not interested. And it's really important that you not default to, I asked for the meeting and they didn't show up. And so we didn't meet. And then 4 months in, the client sends a cancellation notice. What you want to do is have a daily touches sheet. So like you've got a spreadsheet with all your clients on it and you're tracking, when was the last time I met with this client? When was the last time I said it's a meaningful conversation? And so what we do is at the end of the month, if the client didn't meet, the account manager records a Loom video, which is just a quick video, not over engineered. Hey, I know you're busy this month. I'm sorry we couldn't connect. I wanted to just kind of walk you through what we're seeing on the reporting, what we worked on this month, what we're going to be working on the next couple of months, what we need from you in the meantime. If you've got any questions, let us know. I find that first of all, you've got to pursue the client. So you're reaching out, you're trying to schedule a meeting, you're sending them a message. And then if they don't meet, then we're sending a recap. I find that kind of checks all the boxes for the client that's too busy. At least they know you cared enough to send a meaningful message.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then for your agency in particular, I'm curious, what is your ideal customer profile? So obviously it's plumbing or HVAC companies, but is there a specific threshold or a specific kind of owner that you're looking for, like over $1 million a year, or they have a certain amount of employees? What are you looking for?
So our ideal client in the plumbing and HVAC space is doing at least $1 million per year. Typically between $1 million and $10 million is the sweet spot. And usually they're still handling marketing kind of as the owner through a variety of different providers, and they're growth driven, right? They're not just like, hey, I've got my $1 million, my $3 million business and I'm chilling. They're focused on, I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to expand. That's our ideal client. And what I found, early in the agency, like you said, we could work with anybody. We attracted predominantly one-man operators. So if you think about all of the prospects you can work with, the bell curve says most of them are small, and there's a very small percentage that are $1 million, $3 million, $10 million per year. And the amount of energy that it took to serve the one-man operator, to deal with their questions, and typically have them churn out in the third month or the fourth month, just because they're not an entrepreneur. They're a technician still. They're still running plumbing jobs. They're looking to make a little bit of extra money. It was like, man, we're losing most of those clients, but we're retaining most of the larger companies. We just set a little barrier at the beginning of our sales process. If you're less than $1 million per year, or at least $500,000, this isn't going to be a good fit, right? But if you're, at this level, you're willing to invest, you see, you're willing to do a long-term relationship. Those clients we have great results with, and they tend to stick with us long term.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I think one of the things that agencies struggle most with is lead generation and lead conversion. And I'm curious in particular, what does your funnel look like to convert leads? So maybe you've done some outreach or you've run some ads. What are you doing to then convert them?
Yeah. So we have what we call the ultimate agency funnel. And so typically, we've got the low barrier content, our book, our webinars, our
Mm-hmm.
cheat sheets, our guides, right? And whenever somebody opts in for something like that, it's going to take them to hey, here's the thing, but you didn't just want that, right? You don't want a book. You probably want someone that can actually implement what's in the book and get you the result, right? And if that's you, let's schedule a time,
Yeah.
right? And so that's like every piece of content leads to let's schedule a one-to-one. And then once they pick a time and a date, and of course they've already qualified as over $1 million per year, then we're going to warm them up, right? And we usually do that with a video on the confirmation page. Hey, thanks for scheduling. It's going to be amazing. We're going to do a bunch of due diligence leading into this appointment. We're going to pull up your rankings. We're going to pull up your website. We'll be able to show you exactly where there's room for improvement. If you could please make sure you prioritize that meeting, right? Like, we're going to be prepared. You be prepared. And then we ask them to watch a couple of examples of other plumbing companies that we've served that have gotten great results. So like case studies. We find that if we can get them to watch one case study coming into the appointment, they're just so much more likely to be like, okay, you guys know what you're doing. You've got proven results. I don't need you to convince me. I just need you to kind of meet where I'm at and show me how you can help and help me decide whether this makes sense for us.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then what does that call flow look like? Because I've talked to a ton of different agency owners. I've seen people do different things. Is that first call like discovery, and then do you do a sales call after that? How many calls are there?
We do one sales call. So in the training portal, like we find legal, medical, and even some higher end home services make a lot of sense to do a discovery call and then a separate sales conversation. Just in our world, we find our clients are busy, our prospects are busy. When they do give us the time to meet, we make it about an hour and 30 minutes of meeting time. And the first half is the discovery. And the reason we can do it that way is because we're surveying them in advance. So like they've already answered that they run a plumbing company, that they invest a certain amount in marketing, that they have a certain amount of trucks, that they have a certain revenue threshold. And so that's why they're on the calendar. And so we can have a conversation. You'll tell us about your business, tell us about what you're doing in terms of marketing today, tell us about your goal over the next 12 to 24 months, talk to us about like why that's important right now, talk to us about, why you don't just keep things the way they are, really setting the expectation for that there is an actual problem that they're looking to solve. And then we shift gears and say, hey, look, you're at $1 million right now. You're trying to get to 5 million over the next 2 years. I think we can help. We've done some due diligence. Is it okay if I show you kind of what we're seeing with your online marketing today? And they'll usually say yes. And we pull up the screen and we're able to run their ranking report and their analytics and all of that stuff and really show them, look, here's the keywords you're not coming up for. Here's why the website's not ranking. Here's some things we're seeing in terms of competition for paid search. And the tools that we use for these types of analysis. And then, we say, would you like us to show you how we can help? Right. And they'll usually say yes. And then we'll show a couple examples. Here's a couple of our clients and the results they're getting today. Here's what I think you need, right? To get to that goal you told me at the beginning, I think we need to do this, 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 and this. And this is how much it's going to cost, right? And they'll either say, yep, here's the credit card, or hey, I'd like you to send me some more details so I can analyze this. We schedule the next conversation. We put them into a hot lead follow-up. And we try and set a 2-week decision time frame. We're like, hey, we're going to waive the setup fee if you can decide in the next 2 weeks. And so we engineer a hot lead follow-up back to that time frame. And then either it's, yes, let's hit the ground running, or hey, no worries. Thanks for the opportunity. Let us know how we could do better for the next one.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. There's so many things to go into here, but I'll follow up on that last part. What does that hot lead follow-up look like then?
So hot lead follow-up, if you think about it from a CRM perspective, you've got leads. And then ideally, once they schedule, they hit a pipeline, right? Where it's like they scheduled the appointment. We literally drag them to hot lead follow-up. If they met with us, they seemed like a good fit. They said they were interested. They agreed to the 2-week time frame. That hot lead follow-up then is going to send a package in the mail, kind of like a shock and awe package with a copy of the book, testimonials, client references. That way they had a great sales conversation. Now they've got this physical manifestation of the conversation. And then a sequence of emails, right? And those are just like, hey, it was great talking with you the other day. I really think it's going to be a great fit. I find a lot of our clients want to see examples and case studies just to validate what we can do. Here's some examples, right? And then the next day it might be, here's some references. If you want to talk to a couple of our clients, here's 5 clients that would be glad to have your call, right? And most agencies hide their references. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have them, right? But if you've got
Yeah.
references, I don't know why in the world you wouldn't add that as like, hey, feel free to reach out to these people. They love us. They'd be happy to chat with you. And just literally a sequence of communication that's lubricating. Wow, I think this is the right company. I think this is the organization I should go with.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And are there any key objections that you get? And if so, how do you respond to those?
I think most objections you can catch in the sales process. So if you spend a lot of time on the initial, tell me about your company, tell me about the marketing you've tried in the past, tell me about what you're looking to accomplish. They're going to say like, I tried this company and it didn't work out, right? And I'm really frustrated because of X, Y, and Z. That's going to be an objection, right? And so you have to make sure you've addressed like, so here's why this is going to be different. And here's why this helps. If they're spending $1,000, $2,000 a month, and you're going to ask for $5,000 a month plus a larger ad spend, that's going to become an objection unless you explain, hey, look, you're at $1 million. You want to get to $2 million. How much are you spending in marketing? How much do you think you should be spending in marketing? And if you can obviously paint the picture that, like, if we want to get to that level, we're going to need the gasoline in the vehicle to get it there. And obviously, one of the reasons you didn't get the outcome was because you weren't spending enough. You can deal with those types of objections in the sales process, and I think that's the best way to handle them.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely want to touch on pricing as well, because it seems like you guys have figured out a pretty clear model. But I think something that, like, honestly, I've been struggling myself is depending on the size of the company and what their goals are, that the pricing might change. So do you guys have a strict pricing model, or is there a certain amount of variance that you allow?
There's going to be so we have a core program that's the main deliverables, right? Which is we're going to build the website, we're going to write the content. There's a certain amount of city pages, there's a certain amount of content created, and then we're going to set up the paid search, and there's going to be a certain budget amount that allocates for that. The areas that flex, like if they want to serve a wider area, so usually we're targeting a main city plus 10 surrounding cities and towns, which is, we got pages for each of those. We've got authority development for each of those. If they're like, no, I want to go after a wider area, and so I need 30 city pages, for instance, there's going to be an incremental cost associated with that. I think as you manage a larger ad spend on Google Ads and local service ads, you should have a percentage of the spend, just because there's more effort, there's more modifications, there's more landing pages. And so those are usually the two areas that we would flex. Like if they're going after more cities, that's going to cost more. If they're going to, spend $30,000 in ad spend versus $5,000 in ad spend, that is going to impact the monthly fee.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So you've been in the industry for a while, 15 years, and then you've also helped, I think over 1,000 agencies grow, and particularly over 100 that are doing over $1 million a year. And we've kind of talked about the evolution of marketing, and I want to talk specifically, what have you seen works the best for home service local businesses for digital marketing in 2024 and now 2025?
Yeah, so I can speak mainly to like demand-based home services. I still believe organic and directional advertising works best. So making sure you're coming up for the people that are actively looking for what you do. That's still going to be the number one play. In today's market, local service ads is lower cost per lead than Google ads, right? And so you would prioritize, if you've only got $5,000 to spend in ad spend, let's spend as much as we can on the local service ads. And then whatever we're not getting, increase that into, Google ads, right? I find that works really, really well. I think if we're not doing retargeting and some type of marketing automation, that's a miss. And in home services today, two things will really, really massively help with conversion. Number one is converting the way that the prospect wants to convert. And it used to be, it was all about the phone call. And I still love to optimize for the phone call. But today's customer and tomorrow's customer especially would prefer a two-way text message or book directly online, right? And so if we're not putting those types of conversion opportunities into the mix, that's going to harm our ability to convert and generate leads over time. I also think personality and authenticity is one of the key drivers of conversion. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so if you've got a really pretty home service website with lots of stock imagery, it might look great, but it doesn't resonate the same way as if I'm seeing you and your team and the actual trucks and the actual organization I'm going to work with. I think with AI being as aggressive as it is now, it's easy to clone out content. Like, people are going to have all of the pages and all of that stuff. The only thing that's going to make you stand out versus your local competitor is those pictures and the multimedia, right? So if you aren't creating video about the problems you solve, about why somebody should choose you versus the competition, about the jobs that you're running in the field, you're missing a major opportunity to separate yourself from the competition.
Yeah, no, I really couldn't agree more. I think that's going to be incrementally and soon incredibly important with all these home service local businesses, because it is becoming so easy to create websites now. I just saw one tool, and I was actually talking to Greg Sterling about it yesterday. I forget what it was, but you could create a pretty solid website in like 2 minutes. You just fill out a very basic form, and it makes you all the website pages. It does all the design. It does all of that stuff. So really, to separate yourself, like you said, is using that real content. Ideally, videos as well. I'm a big advocate of videos. I know you are too. I think that's going to be huge as well. Can you speak on videos a little bit more?
Yeah, I think at a minimum, you should have a welcome to the website video. Professionally produced is good, but just as good as right off the smartphone. But I think in home services, especially, if you can, either you as the owner or a super tech, like somebody you deem like this is somebody that's charismatic, that's good on camera, is going to be our designated video person in the field, and just train them up on, hey, here's the job I'm going to go on. Here's the job that I'm doing. Here's what we accomplished, and interview the client real quick or the customer. Hey, like, here was the problem. Here's what they did. I highly recommend them. If you've got a technician that's able to consistently create that kind of content, that's going to be extremely powerful to separate you from the competition.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And something I want to make sure to touch on, because of all the AI stuff, everything that's coming up, is what is the future of marketing going to look like? Because again, you have so much experience. You've seen how things have evolved. What are you seeing in the coming years of digital marketing?
Yeah, I think it's, principles are going to remain, right? The principle of marketing is market, message, and media. The market is, who do you serve, right? And just like in plumbing and HVAC, like, we're working with the $1 million to $10 million company. If you're a home service company, you need to decide, like, it can't be every homeowner, right? It should be a very specific customer avatar. The clearer you are on the market, the better you can craft the message, right? And the message is, why would somebody choose you versus the competition? If there's dozens of people or hundreds of people doing exactly what you do, your message really needs to resonate. What's the problem they have? Like, what is it that's unique about you, the way you solve the problem? And then the media is, where are those customers hanging out, right? And are they on Facebook, or are they on Google, or are they searching ChatGPT? I know internet marketing is constantly changing, but if you can go back to principle-based marketing and just recognize market, message, and media, and then meet the customers where they're at, you're always going to win, regardless of how things change.
That's a really good point. I think that's important to note that, like, most of the local marketing experts that I've talked to, they say, yeah, things have changed, but they haven't really changed. Like, the things at the end of the day, they're always the same. There might be a new Google update, but Google always is the same. Or there might be an Instagram update, but Instagram's all the same. And the same way with human nature. People might change behaviorally or might adopt new tools, but at the end of the day, people are the same, business is the same. So yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a great point. And relating to that, what tools are you guys using, and are there any new tools that you're looking at? So I mean, the first one we can touch on is Go High Level. I know you guys are super big advocates of that. Could you talk to me about Go High Level?
Yeah, so obviously there's lots of great tools. I'm a big fan of High Level, both for our agency for marketing automation, because it's got email, two-way text messaging, funnels, all of the tracking mechanisms built into it. I think that applies for the deliverable as an agency to the clients, as well as for your agency yourself. I'm a big fan, and we've implemented Search Atlas, which is like, it combines a lot of the tools we used to use in the past, Ahrefs, Bright Local, and it brings it into one tool. And it's got a lot of AI capability through auto that is still early development phases. It's not perfect, but we find we can do certain things for clients that you'd have to have an army of thousands of SEO minions to get all of that stuff done. It just gives us more bandwidth that we can bring to the table. And I think, whether you're a home service company or an agency and you're looking at AI, you have to look at it as it's coming, whether you want to embrace it or not. It's coming. The people that use it are going to have a competitive advantage, right? They're going to be able to do more, faster, and better. And from an agency's perspective, I really want to encourage you to use those tools, and then don't just think, all right, I just reduced my link building, or I just reduced my content, or I just reduced whatever, and that's all profit, right? Because that profit is going to be very short-lived. You have to reduce the expense and then redeploy those resources in ways that are going to help you generate better results, better outcomes for your clients. And so, like I mentioned Search Atlas, I mentioned high level. I also think there's going to be a little bit of a drift, and it's not here yet, but there could potentially be a drift from everybody going to Google, and that's been for the last 20 years. Everybody goes to Google. That's where they look. That's where they find their results, especially for home services. I think more and more people are now using Bing, right? Because it's got ChatGPT results baked into it, and they're kind of, liking that platform. I think eventually, ChatGPT is going to make a play for, local pest control company and having a better result than Google. And so you want to be thinking about that as the marketer and as the actual business owner. Like, where are your customers today? Where are they going to be looking in the future? And make sure you're planting those seeds so that you can be on the front edge. The companies that got in on Google early, and like everyone else was on Yahoo and the searches were happening on Yahoo, the people that got set up on Google and optimized for Google early had like a 3-year advantage where they were getting the lowest cost per lead. And the same thing when it went from, the previous paid search platform to Google Ads. And so you've got an opportunity to be on the cutting edge of whatever the next thing is. So you want to be paying attention, and whether it pans out or not, at least starting to dabble with those other platforms.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a really interesting next few years. I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen. I was listening to Neil Patel the other day. He said something pretty interesting, that Google will be the same as like these social media platforms where, no one usually just uses one social media platform like Instagram. They usually use Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I think Google might be the same way, where people are now just using all kinds of different search engines. And maybe like one of my good friends uses Claude. I know very few people that use Claude, but he says he uses it for creative work. And then he uses ChatGPT for more informational work. So it's going to be a very interesting landscape. And I think in that way, Google is going to kind of be taken off its throne as the monopoly, and it's kind of equalize things, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but I think is something people need to know and adapt to.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So last question I usually like to ask here is, what is one of the biggest things you've learned in the past few years?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is going back to principles, right? Because there's always going to be change. There's always going to be new shiny objects. There's always going to be exciting, things on the horizon. But the foundational principles of marketing, of business, of personal success, they're there, right? And so go back to the principles, be diligent, be consistent, and you're going to be okay.
Awesome. I completely agree. We were just talking about it earlier. So awesome, man. Well, so good to have you on the podcast. And where can people find you on social media and learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Josh Nelson Coach. The best place if you want to connect as an agency would be sevenfigureagency.com. Grab a copy of the Seven Figure Agency Roadmap, or come join us in Miami for one of our Roadmap live events.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, I just want to say I completely vouch for Josh. Again, I got my agency model from him. The book is awesome. The seminars are awesome. All of his content is awesome. Josh is really killing it in the space. He's one of like the few real guys. I know there are so many gurus out there that are pushing courses or coaching, and maybe they didn't do it to themselves, or they did it themselves in a scammy way. But I know Josh did it the right way, and he's helping other people do it the right way. So I just want to like truly vouch for you, Josh. You're an awesome guy, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on today.
Of course, man. All right. Anything else you'd like to plug or mention?
I'm good, man. And definitely if you're a pest control company, get with Danny. He's doing it right.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. All right, cool, man. Well, it's so great to have you on the podcast, and I hope to have you on again another time.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Bye.
Thanks, man.